What's up, you guys? This is Devin from CenturyFX Studios, back with another video, and today I am so excited because I'm teaching manual mode, and everybody can stop beefing about manual mode because manual mode is a big reason as to why people know how to use their cameras. If you can use your camera in manual mode, you can pretty much do anything with your camera. All right, let's get right into it. Now you notice I'm using the trusty dusty 5D Mark II. It's the 5D Mark II. I love this camera, one of my favorite cameras in the world in history. Canon's 5D Mark II. But you see I have it on manual mode here. It's in manual mode and I'm about to take a picture. Now, when I take a picture in manual mode, immediately I'll figure out that things are wrong. So here we go, taking a picture in manual mode. All right, now let me review that picture. Go to playback. I'm gonna zoom in. And I already notice by looking at the screen here and looking at the picture beyond it, right? So that's the picture beyond it that we took, and that's the screen there. I already noticed that it's a little underexposed. And there are some other tools, go back in my other videos to see, but there's some other tools that you can use to figure out here in your histogram that it's underexposed. So the three main things that you need to understand about manual mode is three. One, two, three. Three things you need to understand about manual mode: ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. Those are the three main things about the camera that you need to understand. And here they are: shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. I have a shutter speed of 1/60th of a second, f-stop or aperture value of f1.8 at ISO 100. As you can see, here's my exposure meter here. It's not showing me anything. It's not showing me any level on here. It's giving me the actual scope, my -2 stops to +2 stops. It's giving me the graph, but it's not actually giving me a value. Now on Canon cameras, the way you activate this value, and I'm pretty sure it's on other cameras as well, is you depress the shutter here halfway. So once you depress the shutter halfway, it'll actually give you an accurate summation of what it thinks the exposure should be for a brief amount of time. Now, it'll do that also on the eyepiece, but I'm doing this on live view so everybody can see it. Now, this shows me my focus, and this shows me my picture style and my white balance. I got it on auto white balance. We're not going to worry about that right now. This is your evaluative metering, excuse me. So it basically uses evaluative metering to meter things to show you exactly what it thinks. And then I have it on raw, of course, and then one shot. That's just how many shots it's going to take. But nevertheless, we're in manual mode, and these are the things that I see. That's what I came up with, is this underexposed image. Here, bang, here's the image. If I zoom in, I can see the whole, but we know it's dark. And then if I go back out, if I zoom back out, I can see my histogram. It's always smashed to the blacks and the dark tones, and none of them is at the high tones. No contrast, pretty much. It's just pretty much darkness in the entire image. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back out of this. We're going to fix the image. And this is the entire point of manual mode. We already know that the image is almost 2 stops or even more underexposed because I'll hit my focus button halfway here, and bang, it'll tell me under 2 stops or even more. Now you need to do what? Raise your exposure. All right, so we're gonna raise our exposure. I want these settings. I want 1/60th of a second at f1.8. Why? Because I am a professional photographer. I am shooting in manual mode for a reason, because I want a desired result and a desired look. The shutter speed and the aperture will give you a desired look. The only other setting that you have to adjust your amount of lighting is ISO. Now I'm running with a full frame camera, so bringing it up about ISO 800 won't cause it to have an overabundance of noise. So we're going to bring this all the way up to about ISO 400 and see what I get. So I just hit the ISO button here at the top of my 5D Mark II. Now, ISO, you can actually go back, and I can actually hit this little dimple button right here, or nipple button, or whatever you want to call it, little joystick here, and actually go to my ISO, hit select, and then go through ISOs like that. So adjusting ISO is up to your preference. Whatever camera you got, you learn your camera. So I'm going to ISO 400. Just a little estimation. And then I'm going to hit my button halfway here at the top, my shutter button. That's what I'm hitting. And I notice, bang, the exposure went dead center. It's actually telling me if I have the correct exposure. So let me take an image here. And let's review it. And wow, that image looks a little bit more accurate than what I had before, or a lot more accurate. So I've just increased this exposure by about two whole stops. That's 4 times the amount of light. Now I did some math because I know about, photography and exposure. I know that 1 stop equals a doubling of light. 2 stops equals 4 times the amount of light. I already knew that. So going from ISO 100 to ISO 400, let me zoom in so you guys can see it. But that's pretty much it. But going from ISO 100 to ISO 400 gave me the exact exposure that I wanted because I did the math correctly. Now, you don't necessarily have to do the math. You can kind of guess and check, or you can bracket. You don't necessarily have to be perfect, but you have to come close, especially since you're shooting raw. You have the ability to manipulate whatever image, even if the camera thinks it's right and you think it's a little bit different, you can manipulate it because the camera's not always 100% correct, and that's the main part of manual mode. Now, notice that we're inside a location here and none of the light is changing. I even have my constant light. You can see here I'm moving it. I have my constant light here on in my 48-inch octabox. That's not going to change because it's a constant light. And then I have my LED back there. I'm shooting the red LED. That's not going to change. They're all constant lights. The challenge with manual mode comes into play when you have lights that change over time. You're going outside, the sun changes the amount of light over time. Or you got a battery that's going down on your flash, or different lights in different situations. You're going from inside to outside. That's a change in lighting. It's always going to require you to check this exposure meter and see where you are as far as your settings are concerned. All 3 of these settings matter. ISO, shutter speed, and aperture are all dependent on each other. So if you change one, you're going to have to change the other one because it's all a factor of how much light you're letting in. They all factor it out in some kind of way, whether it be speed, whether it be the amount of light you're bringing in, or whether it be the sensitivity of the light that you're letting in. All of it has to do with light, and all of it has to do with each other. So it's all about a responsibility. It's like learning how to walk. Once you learn how to walk, walking is easy. But if somebody told you to walk to the next state, it becomes a burden and it becomes a responsibility because you have to be able to take care of yourself, understanding which variables will start to lose you energy, all these variables that you will lose because you are changing your situation rapidly, and it becomes a responsibility for you to maintain, much like manual mode. It is a responsibility for you to maintain over a certain amount of time so you can get the desired effect that you want. I'm done with CenturyFX Studios, guys. This is just inside. I'm going outside later to show you guys how to manage your settings over time based off of what time it is. And I'll get you a video that will really show you how to be responsible for manual mode. Keep watching videos.